Mumbai runs out of vaccine again. 344 government centers shut down for a day. After foreign firms, now domestic firms want cover. Pfizer, Moderna, and now the Serum Institute seeks indemnity. In rural India, in UP and even in Bihar, elderly women hide from the vaccination team as vaccine hesitancy seen rampantly in villages, and both states, UP and Bihar, amongst the lowest with the vaccine cover. Notice to center on the sedition hearing. Journalist entitled to protection, says the Supreme Court. Case cancelled against a senior journalist. And Captain Amrinder Singh shows clout ahead of dissent panel meeting in the centre. 3 AAP MLAs joined Congress last minute before he is to meet the High Command. Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. Our top story at this hour. India will be amongst a handful of countries to receive COVID vaccines now from the United States under its plan to supply first 25 million doses as part of the government's global framework there. And communicating this to Prime Minister Modi directly was the United States Vice President Kamala Harris. They exchanged phone calls and discussed the plan in detail. But what is the number that we're looking at this point? 7 million doses will be split between 16 countries, India being one of them. Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka are the others. There are about 80 million vaccines globally by the end of June end that United States plans to share with the world, a share of 75%, with at least 3/4 of it will be donated to prioritizing countries like and in areas like Southeast Asia, Africa, Latin America, and in the African Union as well. Now remember, this comes on a day when the US President Biden has said that they plan to give at least 1 dose of the vaccine to 70% of their own population by the 4th of July. In fact, Prime Minister has just tweeted about that phone call as well. Prime Minister Modi spoke to Kamala Harris a short while ago. I deeply appreciate the assurance of vaccine supplies to India as part of the US strategy for global vaccine sharing. I also thanked her for all the support and solidarity from the United States government, businesses and the Indian diaspora. We also discussed ongoing efforts to further strengthen the US-India vaccine cooperation and potential of our partnership to contribute to post-COVID global health and the economic recovery. So good news there as some more vaccines coming our way. But here in the country, since the foreign vaccines got the waiver, now the Serum Institute of India has asked for indemnity for themselves as well, from giving them indemnity from the liability. This is what NDTV is picking up from sources. Now all vaccine makers, whether India or foreign, should be granted the same protection. That's what Aadhar Poonawalla-led company has reportedly told the government. Now this impacts, remember, the Serum Institute of India hugely, because it's not just about Covishield. Remember, there are 3 more vaccines, some nasal ones over there as well, that are in the pipeline, all being produced by the Serum Institute in the country. And all this happening at a time when India continues to face an acute vaccine shortage. Mumbai, for example, ran out of vaccines once again. The government and the civic body ran out of vaccines and of any stock of any vaccine in 344 of their state and civic run vaccination centers. This meant no age group could get vaccinated for a day.
No vaccination on June 3rd. Once again, this board displayed in Mumbai because vaccination drive stopped in BMC and state-run centers on Thursday. Due to the shortage of vaccine on Wednesday, only 51 centers out of 344 centers were functioning. Today, not one of these was open. In fact, of about 50,000 doses on Wednesday, only 1 in 10 were in government centers, the rest were in private centers. In the last 3 days, the number of beneficiaries in government centers has crashed, from over 22,000 on the 31st of May to just 5,500 on the 2nd of June. In May, BMC received nearly 5.2 lakh doses, less than half of April's quantity of over 9.4 lakh doses.
Getting the vaccination supply, we are dependent on the Government of India and Government of Maharashtra. We could not continue with the vaccination schedule on Wednesday because of the short supply, but today we have received more than 90,000 doses of Covishield and Covaxin. So tomorrow onwards, our vaccination schedule will be as it is.
The municipality received 9 responses for its global tender for 1 crore doses and will scrutinize the bids to check for authenticity. Although right now the cases are going down in Mumbai, but in an anticipation of a third wave, it is necessary that we vaccinate as many people as possible, and that too quickly. But with such regular vaccine shortage in Mumbai, this is looking very difficult and also a bit concerning. In Mumbai with camera person Sanjay Mandal, this is Purva Chitnas for NDTV.
And look at the paradox over here. At one place we've run out of vaccines, in the other there is vaccine hesitancy. The vaccine shortage in metros and hesitancy seen more and more in rural areas. Large states like UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh are all facing an enormous challenge of vaccine hesitancy. Why? Well, sometimes thanks to fake news, other times simply superstition.
वैक्सीनेशन वाले आए अम्मा कहाँ दुखी हो अम्मा ओ अम्मा इतने आओ अम्मा अम्मा बताएगी आई आपके घर है
This viral video from Uttar Pradesh's Etawah district summing up India's worrying COVID vaccine hesitancy, especially in villages. The video was shot on Tuesday afternoon when the local BJP MLA and a health department team visited the village for an awareness drive. Hardevi, in her 80s, first hid behind a door, then behind a drum, refusing to get vaccinated. Finally, she was convinced to get the jab.
गांव क्षेत्र में बहुत ही मेहनत की ज़रूरत है और लोगों को जागरूक करने की ज़रूरत है, समझाने की ज़रूरत है, क्योंकि वैक्सीनेशन तो होना ही चाहिए और सबसे ज़्यादा गांव क्षेत्र में होना चाहिए.
Uttar Pradesh's vaccination pace is among the lowest among big states in the country. For example, in Uttar Pradesh, less than 2% of the total population are fully vaccinated. In terms of numbers, this is just 35 lakh people, hardly anything for a state with a population of 23 crores. The COVID vaccine drive hitting a roadblock in neighbouring Bihar too, despite the Nitish Kumar government stepping up vaccinations in rural areas. These videos from a village in the Saharsa district show Anganwadi and Asha workers struggling to convince people and facing excuses ranging from illness, impotency to death. Only about 1.4% of Bihar's population has been fully vaccinated so far.
जो भी लोग हैं वो वैक्सीन लेने से पूरे इनकार कर रहे हैं. ये होगा वो होगा, बीमार पड़ जाएंगे. अभी हम लोग का फसल काटने का समय है, हम लोग फसल काटने जाएंगे, हम लोग सुन नहीं लेंगे.
In Madhya Pradesh, not a rush for COVID vaccines, but for fairy water, as these crowds rushed into the Chatukheda village of MP's Rajgarh district after rumours that 2 women were distributing a miracle cure for COVID.
Superstitions like these need to be tackled swiftly and with a strong hand. With Alok Pandey and Manish Kumar in Bhopal, Anurag Dwari for NDTV.
And talking about the vaccines over there, Supreme Court has come down heavily on the Indian government on the vaccine policy. They have also some specific questions on pricing, mostly saying why do we not have one nation, one price for the vaccine, reflecting perhaps sentiments of many Indians as well, wondering why there is not even an MRP or a maximum retail price on these life-saving vaccines. Monideepa Banerjee explores this.
At vaccination centres at Kolkata's private hospitals, a debate over the cost of the shot. Some are charging as much as $12.50 for Covishield, which costs 630 rupees. For Covaxin, cost price 1,200 rupees, a customer has filed a police complaint against a hospital that advertised shots at 2,000 rupees a piece.
Right? Everybody is supposed to pay what is equal, and it should be regulated. Like it should be same for all. There shouldn't be this difference, like somebody is paying high and somebody is paying low.
They are saying they are charging 1,000 rupees, somewhere they are charging 1,250 rupees, here they are charging 630 rupees. So that has to be one vaccine charges for everyone.
A Lions Club initiative to vaccinate members earned brickbats from some.
As a commodity as simple as water, that this bottle costs you 20 rupees, this is the MRP. But when it comes to a life-saving vaccine in this time of a pandemic, I am not sure what is the right price. Even our members are saying you are charging 950. There are instances where other hospitals are charging 850. Then there are instances where other hospitals are charging 1,400. So this looks like that people are taking advantage of the situation.
The Association of the top 19 Kolkata hospitals is worried the variation in prices could give them a bad name.
Yes, it has come to our notice also that some of the hospitals are charging very high. But I would request, I can pray to this one, that is they should not charge more. No one should consider this vaccination program as their business model.
There are exceptions. Covishield at this Narayana Group hospital is at procurement price 630 per shot. Private hospitals do need to recover the cost of their inputs in the vaccination drive. But a free market in vaccine delivery ill-advised. With Saurav Gupta, Monideepa Banerjee, NDTV.
In Rajasthan alone, there are over 500 children orphaned in the pandemic who have lost parents due to COVID. The state government, even the centre, is working towards providing a rehabilitation package for these children. But in many cases, COVID does not feature as a cause of death. And these children, the fear is, will be left out of any sort of relief. In many cases, young children in college, technically adults really who are above the age of 18, so they might not get relief. But again, tragically, these are students who, many of them have taken loans to treat their parents, but now unable, after not being able to save them, a bleak future looms ahead for them.
Nupur and Nilima lost their parents to COVID. Both were nursing staff with government jobs. Their father Kartar Singh and mother Chandravati died within a week of each other in May this year. The girls now have no family to support them. Their grandmother, the only surviving relative, is dependent on them. The cruel irony is that the girls may not technically be counted as COVID orphans as they are both in their early 20s.
हमारी परवरिश के लिए अभी कोई भी नहीं है. हम दो बहनें ही हैं अब जो एक दूसरे का सपोर्ट करेंगे और एक दूसरे के साथ रहेंगे. हम दोनों ही अभी जॉबलेस हैं. मेरी सिस्टर की एजुकेशन अभी चल रही है, वो सेकंड ईयर में है. तो गवर्नमेंट से यही है कि जल्दी से जल्दी प्रोसेस को वो हम स्टार्ट करें, हमारी हेल्प करें. हम दोनों ही जॉबलेस हैं. पेंशन प्लान जो हमें दें, जॉब जो जिसको भी मिलनी चाहिए दोनों में से, या तो दोनों को दें या जो बड़ा है उसको दें, ताकि सिस्टर की पढ़ाई भी स्टार्ट कर सकें.
15-year-old and her 9-year-old brother say relatives have run up a debt for the treatment of their mother who died of COVID in May this year. The children are now left alone. Their father died a few years ago and they have no means to support themselves, let alone repay the debt incurred for their mother's treatment.
उनकी फिर मौत हो गई. गांव वालों से कर्ज लेके भैया ने आगे का इलाज शुरू किया और हम दोनों भाई बहन की जिम्मेदारी भी भैया पे आ गई. कैसे भी करके भैया घर चला रहे हैं हमारा. मैं पढ़ना चाहती हूँ.
This tragic dimension to the pandemic has left hundreds of children orphaned. According to the Rajasthan government, the figure in the state is 500 and the tally is still increasing.
500 के करीब आंकड़ा हमारे पास आया है और अभी और भी आंकड़े आने बाकी हैं. अभी हमारा सबसे पहला फोकस है कोरोना में जो बच्चों के माता पिता चले गए हैं. चाहे वो कई ऐसे भी मामले आ रहे हैं जिनके पिता फर्स्ट वेव में चले गए और माता सेकंड वेव में चली गई, उनको भी हम इस कैटेगरी में रख रहे हैं. और अभी हमारा सबसे बड़ा अध्याय यही है, पिछले 1 साल का वो पूरा आंकड़ा आप हमको भिजवाए जो बच्चे अनाथ हुए, चाहे वो किसी भी तरह हुए हों. तो उसका भी एक अलग से हमारा सर्वे चल रहा है.
But for children to navigate the red tape and access real help may be more than they can handle.
लंबी प्रक्रिया नहीं होनी चाहिए जो मेरी आपके साथ. हमने किड्स केयर वेलफेयर फंड क्यों बनाया कि वो बच्चे घूमते नहीं रहे, मेरे मदर फादर नहीं है, मैं फॉर्म कैसे भरूं. आजकल एक नया बुखार चढ़ गया, ऑनलाइन कीजिए. अरे ऑनलाइन मैं पढ़ा लिखा आदमी मैं नहीं कर सकता, ऑनलाइन करना हर व्यक्ति को नहीं आता. मैं आजकल रोज अफसर से लड़ता हूं. मैंने कहा पहले गलत बात, ऑनलाइन ऑफलाइन दोनों रखो. वो ढूंढते मुझे फॉर्म कहां भरना है. फॉर्म भरने के लिए बच्चों को लाइन में मत लगाइए, मदद करनी दीजिए घर पे जाकर.
And as the government plans rehabilitation for these children, real help will be what reaches their doorstep. With Sandeep Tak in Ajmer and Harish Acharya in Bundi, Harsha Kumari Singh, NDTV.
To Karnataka now, where wrapped in white cloth and marked only by numbered stickers, dozens of clay plots lay unclaimed at the crematorium in the suburbs of Bengaluru, where the ashes of COVID victims have been piling up. The urns were then transported to mass riverside immersion ritual with the rest of the uncollected ashes from Bengaluru. A total number of 1,200 unaccounted virus victims.
560 persons' ashes will be immersed in the Kaveri today. The family of those who dead people for the various reasons could not collect the ashes. They are going through difficult time. Government is sharing the pain with them and trying to step in the part of their family. We are seeing in the Ganga river thousands of bodies who is dead in the COVID time. The birds are eating the meat. This is shame to us. So we decided to respect farewell to all the bodies who lost their life in the COVID time.
Mr. Bandyopadhyay, the Bengal bureaucrat at the heart of the latest clash between Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has now reportedly replied to the centre's notice, accusing him of skipping the Prime Minister's meeting last week. What exactly does this mean? Could there be further repercussions for this? Let's understand from Monithiba Banerjee.
At the moment, the short of it is that Mr. Alapan Bandyopadhyay, who is now a retired IAS officer and a chief advisor to the Chief Minister of Bengal, he has responded to the show cause that was served to him on Monday, 31st of May, his last day at work. The show cause from the Department of Personnel at the center was primarily because he allegedly did not attend the Prime Minister's meeting at Kalaikunda on the 28th of May. Mr. Bandyopadhyay is believed to have written back. We don't have exact verbatim details of his letter, but we believe he has said that he was at the meeting with the Chief Minister and that he left the meeting when the Chief Minister did. The Chief Minister was his boss at that time and he followed her instructions. This, in a sense, is what he has apparently written to the center. In the meantime, not just Mr. Alapan Bandyopadhyay, we are hearing that even the Chief Secretary, on behalf of the West Bengal government, has written to the center on the issue, again explaining the exact circumstances of Mr. Alapan Bandyopadhyay's and the Chief Minister's presence and departure from the meeting with the Prime Minister. What happens next? Big question. Depends on what the center wants to do. The whole matter could, of course, escalate to court. The Chief Minister yesterday very significantly said the Alapan Bandyopadhyay chapter is a closed chapter, but in future we will back him in the entire matter. So if the matter goes to court, the state will back him. And we'll have to wait and see now how the center responds to this. A huge number of former civil servants have said that the action by the center against Mr. Bandyopadhyay was, some have called it malafide and completely unnecessary. But of course, the center has its point of view, and if it wishes to pursue the matter in court, perhaps that is where the matter will roll.
All right, Vanitha Banerjee, leave it there for the moment. Thanks so much for joining us. That's all we could pack in this edition of news. Stay tuned to NDTV. Lots more coming up.